All right, and we're live. Looks like I've got on the angle I want it later, so we're going to bring that down a little bit for now till we get started. Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. Today we're going to be dyeing my robe. We'll be doing that at the end of every book in the book club series. We'll be adding a little bit more to the psychedelic robe. That. Okay. We're also going to be talking about the law of aesthetics and looking the part. And got a little bit of alcohol tonight. I feel like it would be it's a good choice for today. Because we're going to be doing some dyeing and stuff, want to get a little stumbly while you're dealing with things that could stain stuff. Anyways, we're drinking Lone Tree Dry Cider tonight. And like I said, we're going to dye the robe. Talk about the law of aesthetics and the importance of looking the part. Now, I know a lot of times when you hear the idea of looking the part, it may feel a little like, oh, I'm talking about being a poser. But the thing is that's, well, for one thing, we are all posing as something. We all choose to become something. And this is, this isn't junior high anymore. We don't need to hold an image to impress anyone. The importance of looking the part is for your own cohesiveness of the work that you're doing. I'm talking about putting on your magical robes. Hey, Kayana, it's good to see you. Yeah, we're going to be dyeing we're going to be adding the first layer of dye to the psychedelic robe today. And like I said, we're going to be talking about why it's important to look the part in the law of aesthetics. That's why I don't have my robe on. Don't worry, I'm not naked under here. I do have a skirt on, but I don't want to get my clothes dyed. So I figured I'd just wear a black skirt. And yeah, that way I can keep from dyeing any of my clothes. You know what can be accomplished by working with Ganesh? Ganesh, I have worked with a long time ago. Ganesh, in my experience, is good for overcoming obstacles. They're a very friendly spirit. Yes, Ganesh. That's when we're talking about the elephant-headed god of Hinduism. I found them to be very friendly and very good at overcoming obstacles. In fact, I might. I'm glad you brought them up because I have some obstacles in my own life that I might actually consider going back to Ganesh for. That might be a good idea. You can see the seashells under my door there, or my altar there. So yeah, as I was saying, at the end of every book that we do in the book club series, we'll be adding some more color to the robe. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, some of the sounds and the mantras, like the sounds they make, are very much resonate with the cosmos. And people have been doing them for a long time. There's a lot of repetition behind them. And there are certain sounds that just have the right frequency. So, there are frequencies that have certain meaning with meaning is the wrong word. I don't want to use the word meaning. have a certain resonance with the general frequency of the cosmos. Good. Yeah, that's one of them things that has to be felt. You have to get it. In order to get it, you've got to really awesome. Very cool. Hey, Romstead. Meditating in the storms today. Very cool. Very cool. One of my first lucid dream experiences, I was well, no, not lucid dream. Sorry. One of my first out of body experiences was during a storm. Like I was sitting in the backyard watching the storm and the rain and thinking about the fact that I had to go to bed and I really didn't want to. I wanted to sit up and watch the rain and the lightning. And I was like, well, I can't. I got to go to sleep. So I went downstairs, I laid down and closed my eyes. And almost as soon as I closed my eyes, I was right back up on the porch, sitting there in the exact same spot, watching the lightning. And that worked pretty good for a while. And then I realized, wait a minute, I've already gone to bed. And that woke me up. And, you know, out of body experiences onto that clear of the material plane, that's even I struggle to get there very often. Does happen. I mean, you can astral project to those, but to have that full, like, that level of connection to the material plane without the body is kind of rare. Like, I literally just closed my eyes and boom, I was right back in the same spot. Okay, so as I was saying about the importance of looking the part. I think we're going to start there before I even start dyeing any of the robe. Though that is the primary purpose of today's live is to dye the robe. Mark a transition into the next story. We actually wound up having a little bit of trouble finding a PDF for the never-ending story. I do have one, which we've shared in CMU. I'm going to share it here, but I'd like to take a better look at it. We just found it. So if you do click on it, that's with the caveat that it's kind of at your own risk because I haven't really I haven't really looked through it yet, right? Like it's on a link through Facebook, so it should go through all of their stuff too. Should be safe. I just don't want to promise you that it's safe until I've actually looked through it myself. So I may link it here if y'all want me to, because we would like to start reading the never-ending story by next time. And it's surprisingly hard to get a link. But anyway, that said, I was going to talk about the importance of looking the part. Now, obviously, if you're doing client work or any work in a group setting, there is the surface level of looking the part. It's like the meme that says, I need a blonde girl. I need a blonde girl with a nose ring to tell me which planet is upsetting me, right? The clients do expect a certain type of look, and that isn't just to get sales, right? It's also good. Yeah, that would be great, Felix. Because like I said, I am a little, we're gonna go ahead and pin it. I'll go ahead and share it here. Oh, definitely pinned the features there, but then I wanted to share a link. What am I doing here? I know there's a way to do this. Save post, remove post. No, I want to share post. What are you doing to me? Never been very good at this part. Getting a permalink for a pin, view edit history, remove post, do not know, remove tag. Oh, I don't want to unfollow Felix. I just want to share the post. All right, well, maybe this will work. Yep, that worked. And we'll go ahead and click on it now just to see, because I haven't actually even clicked on it myself yet. Save it. Hopefully that wasn't a mistake. So yeah, I'll go ahead and save it now. Anyways, as I was saying, it looks like you have to download it from there. So maybe don't download it yet. Give me a few days. I'll let you know in the next live if it was all right. Then we'll know for sure. So yeah, the importance of looking the part. As I said, with clientele, for one that's going to help sales, but also when you're working with someone, you need to get them into the groove and resonate with what is occurring. So in order to get a good read, give someone a good tarot reading, for example, you need them to not only be willing, but to have them in a state of mind that they believe it is going to work. Belief imparts reality. And you can do it without that. Yeah, you can definitely give someone a good reading when they're it does let you read online. Okay, good. But you can give someone a good reading even if they're skeptical. But if they are receptive, there's going to be less blocks. There's going to be less resistance to the reading. And this is even much more so when you are doing any kind of healing work for a person. Because part of what we're doing, the reason they call it faith healing, right? And, it's the theater of the act. It's even that way with the hospital. It's the theater of this operation room is part of what helps a person get better. That's why placebo effect exists, because it's real. And saying that faith healing is part placebo effect is not in any way disparaging faith healing. It's simply understanding what it is we are working with. Yeah? And I mean, it's not the only thing going on. But that's the same with taking a pill in Western medicine. Simply the act of taking a pill, if you believe it's going to help you get better, can help you get better. And it's the same. Yes, exactly. The person feeling safe and trusting the healer is very essential. Definitely, at the very least, you need them to feel safe and feel trusted, even if they're maybe skeptical that you're going to do any good. But if they're not feeling safe and trusting you, then they're going to be putting up blocks. They're going to be resisting. Where if you show up, and you're wearing the outfit that they're expecting, you appear as what they expect to appear, you appear as they expect someone in that role to appear. Then, when they are given the treatment, they are more fully integrated into that theater of operations. The law of aesthetics is at play here in helping all of that resonate, right? Not only in convincing them, but also for helping it work, because there's repetition going on there. This is the reason that we sometimes wear the same robes, right? They talk about this a lot in ceremonial magic with the magical ring and the robes and all this stuff, different things they wear. Each one of these items is bringing them closer in, bringing their mind closer to the idea that we are now performing magic. So, like I said, this matters for the client in that when they see you wearing all the things that are important for your role, that it helps them. But even more so, it is putting you into a particular mindset. And that's why the importance of looking the part is going to differ for each one of us, right? Like even me with my psychedelic bathrobe and my black bathrobe that I wear all the time. As much as, wizards wear robes, And it was partially because, well, I'm getting on a thing and I had to wear something when I first started doing this. And I was like, well, a robe is wizardly, but it has a groove for me, right? It puts me into my magical place to put on psychedelic robes, to put on my plurbics, is what I usually actually call it. And I've got my other plurbics, which you've seen in a few videos, but I don't wear it as often. That's one that has been dyed over time, and it's got all kinds of different colors and sigils kind of painted into it that you can't see very well. And this one is going to be the same way, but because I'm coming back to chaos magic, even though I could never truly leave, I am getting a new Plurbix. And I did actually happen to be gifted a robe that already had some psychedelic color on it. And I feel like that's appropriate because like I said, I could never really leave. I could never really have a pure white robe of the initiate in chaos magic again. It's been too long. I've been too immersed in that pattern and that philosophy, and in some ways almost born to chaos. You know, the word Manitou literally means mystery. The um the unknown, the unperceived potential. This is what chaos is, right? So I could never really escape. So it is appropriate, I feel, that I started with a robe that has some coloring on it. And like I said, the importance of looking the part, and the most importantly, is that you feel you look the part. So you want to wear the stuff that you feel is the things you put on when you were doing magical work. But it is a very good idea to have um, clothing, equipment, rings, jewelry, things that you put on specifically to denote that I am now entering into a magical frame of mind. Yes, indeed. In fact, that's you may notice my Tulpa Jeshua Witterson's there is got his clothes, got a little bit different clothing. The point is come down, but at the moment, he's actually even wearing my wizard hat. Maybe you stay on. There we are. Okay. But he's even wearing my wizard hat at the time, and that's very much what he is well, a very large poppet that is designed to contain a slightly more advanced version of me that I am growing into over time. So as he goes up, I merge in. He goes up, I merge in, and we're gonna just keep working on it that way. I kind of think maybe he should have my Thank you, my love. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but I think maybe I should put my old Plurbix on him. I think we're gonna do that. He's actually wearing my shadow gloves right now. He has can't see from here, but he has Sister Shiv in his hands with my shadow gloves because, well, we're not sure the glitch completely worked. You know, it seems like it, but he's just making sure. You may know what I mean by if the glitch worked, if you're paying very much attention to my channel and things that rhyme, but I'm not going to say any more about that. Okay, so as I was saying, yeah, the importance of looking the part is something that resonates from within. We're going to talk more about that in the law of aesthetics. I mean, we're only 20 minutes in, so I better have more to say on today. But I was thinking maybe we would start with the first bit of color. Now, rather than doing like a tie-dye, or you tie it up and dip the robes in, what I like to do, basically like this. And there's some blue. start with that. I'm gonna let that soak in for a while, and when that dries, we'll add some more colors. And like I said, the purpose of today's live is to dye this. But if you're looking for advice on how to dye stuff, I'm not your perfect. I'm not the perfect example. Um, we did bleach the robe some yesterday. Well, Felix did for me because I didn't quite. I didn't know how much bleach to put. Yeah, it was rather fun. That's the very way I did the plurbics, my old plurbics. Doing a similar thing with one of my characters, Bridgel Twist Pen. Through story sorcery, I haven't made her pop it yet, but she's an idealized form of me. Awesome. Awesome. Actually, the Joshua Wittershins, he's one of my characters as well. He's in several stories that I've written. One is even like the one I was talking about last week that I published. Is it's on Amazon, but it's available along with my sorcery works. There's one fiction work, and Joshua Wittershins is in there. He originally actually came from clear back Romestead. Thank you. So, as I was saying, what was I saying? Oh, all right, how did that make? Anyways, Joshua Wittershins, where he originally came from, was back when I used to play I still play Dungeons and Dragons, but I used to DM, and Joshua Wittershins was essentially my avatar in the game. Like whenever I needed an NPC that could just come in and fix everything, Joshua Wittershins, because especially when we were like young and playing, sometimes you just had to fix what was going on, so you needed somebody to come in and do that. He's my Tom Bombadil, it's like J.R. Tolkien's in his stories. Tom Bombadil is essentially his avatar in Middle Earth, and my books are written in a place called Hybrid, and it's where the D&D game took place as well. We made our own realm and all that stuff, but yeah, he's my avatar in Hybrid, so that's kind of where it actually totally the whole thing synced up, and it's amazing how much his sigil is basically the servitor sigil with a little more of a twist. That's I've been working on him for forever and hadn't really realized what I was doing over the last over 30 years now, because I made him. Well, no, that's not correct. I did not make Joshua Wittershins as a teenager. I was 23 years old when I first made Joshua Wittershins, right? No, I didn't. Anyways, long time. Yeah, I didn't make him when I made the Coven because I remember playing games with my little brother even, and I already had Joshua Wittershins. Like when I was teaching my brother how to play Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, at least 30 years. I must have been like 15 years old. That doesn't seem right. Doesn't matter. That is not the most important aspect of all of this. Okay, so the law of aesthetics, just as a refresher, the law of aesthetics states that, let's read it right out of the book. You think I'd remember? But I would hate to, oh, that's volume 2. I hate when I misquote myself, on the lives and don't even realize till later. Or usually I realize immediately, I guess. But either way. Okay. The law of aesthetics states that living is an art form that takes place between life and death. Yeah, I thought it was something simple like that. Basically, the law of aesthetics is could be better said as patterns repetition and patterns tend to form along similar lines. Um, you know, once a pattern has been performed, it tends to repeat, kind of like the law of repetition. They're really kind of related in that, once patterns form, once things are going a certain way, they tend to follow these certain patterns. But the law of aesthetics is more than that, which is why it needed to be stated on just yeah, why it needed to be stated on top of the law of repetition. Oh, please do, Kieran. I always say your name wrong. It's Kayana. I assume. Please do. That would be. You are more than welcome to do that. I would love to check it out. That's part of what we're here for, right? At least what we should be here for. And part of what I want in on my stream is us raising each other up. That's why I make sure to mention Max quite often because they've got a YouTube channel as well, and that's an important part of this whole thing to me. Because we're mostly solitary practitioners. I mean, I'm making assumptions, but it seems like most of the people that wind up being drawn to me are solitary practitioners in some way. And there's a lot of advantages to that. I don't really want to join a big coven or start one. I've had access to these things. I've been part of these things before. And, you know, I would like to have some kind of SBAT where we met up once or twice a year somewhere, but I don't want to have to deal with all that stuff all the time. But I would like community. I would like somewhere where we can talk shop, somewhere where we can give each other all the emotional support and all the things that we're missing by being solitary practitioners in some form. So we raise each other up. Sometimes people in here talk about things that have happened and that they need to process. And, you know, I feel like that's an important part of what goes on here and in the Sorcerers Guild and ideally in CMU, the group that link goes to. Yeah, I was just going to mention that, Kiana. I don't see the link either. It says, thank you. Here's the link. And then there was no link. It could be the YouTube filtering it out. Sadly, it does that sometimes. Okay. So, that's not quite dry enough yet. That's a really light blue. That's all right. There could be a bunch of different colors of blue on it. It's probably light also because of how I was spraying it. Cool. Yeah, send it to the FB. Share it in the CMU, the public group there, and I'll even pin it. Okay, I wonder if I can. Wonder if I can provide it. Let's see how that works. There, looked like that worked. Yeah, cool. So there you go. I shared it on the thing now. You're welcome to post it in CMU as well, though. But I did manage to get it onto the live here. Okay. Oh, thank you. Like I said, it's important to me that we do these kind of things. I'd like to do. I'm thinking I might start doing some response videos to some of the people in the community that I feel like deserve a response one way or another. I'm just gonna go ahead and get YouTube, Facebook. I just want to get a stroke corrected. Kiana did, right? Okay. So, like I said, the law of aesthetics is pretty closely related to the law of repetitions, which is every time a cycle is repeated, every time a pattern is repeated, the cycle of its momentum increases. Except for the law of aesthetics is what happens because of that. We get resonance around certain images. Things tend to be connected to each other in a poetic way, and everything just kind of flows within a larger story. Everything is connected and within context to each other that makes up this massive mythology that is reality. And we can take advantage of the patterns within that and how stories tend to go to affect how a story goes. You know, things are, it's a matter of precedence, essentially. And precedents can be defied. The odds can always be altered, but it's a tendency. And that's what's going on with the law of aesthetics is the tendency for things to flow a certain way. I strongly suspect a big part of that is because of the audience. The audience, that's the part where we all are observing the world into being. We tend to expect a story. And so as we perceive the world into being, we perceive things in certain patterns. May the odds be altered in your favor. Indeed, love. I like that. May the odds be altered in your favor. I suppose that's kind of the epitome of being a sorcery. The epitome of sorcery is hoping that the odds may be altered in your favor. Okay, so on that note, I feel like it's time for some red. Oh, so that's why I'm wearing the black shirt. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and prop this up a little bit this time. There we are. Very dark red. Probably won't be so dark once I good thing it's cement floor in here. Almost completely forgot about that. Let's turn this thing around. Okay. We don't want to dye too much of it today. Be careful I don't smoke the dye. It's all over my hands. Okay. Prop this back down for a bit. There we are. Now, yeah, Hunger Games was a fun set of movies. Well, since I have my shirt off. Oh, this side. Probably mentioned this before, but that is they talk about witches marks. That's my witches mark right there. This actually bled till I was about 8 years old. It's the spot where my the placenta for what was probably my paternal twin sister. That's what I think. That's where she was before I absorbed her. Was she had her own plus, she had come out to she had developed to the point that she had her own placenta, and then something happened, and I absorbed her, and her placenta was still attached to me right there, and it tore off during the birthing process, and it bled till I was like 8, 9 years old. Occasionally, not like all the time. It's not like I was constantly seeping blood, but yeah, it's one of the supposed to be a significant mark with the Taltos, which it's interesting. The Taltos and the Manitou traditions are very similar, but one comes from like Slovakia, Hungarian area, and the others from Michigan. You know, and they have it's not just that they have this thing about people being born different, being significant, making them mysteries, but they got a whole thing with the horned helmets and drums and the lodge tradition. There's a lodge tradition that where you summon spirits between both of them that is extremely similar, even up to there being a spirit hole in the top of the lodge with a ladder going up to it. I don't know exactly what it means, but it is definitely connected to the clever coachman mythology as well. So it could mean good riders. I don't speak any Magyar. I have no idea what it means, and it's in the original tongue. But they would take children that were born with two placentas, six fingers, born with teeth, stuff like that, and they would take them and raise them in the Taltos tradition, and they would be taught to be in two places at once. Was part of that, and they had a copper sieve that they were somehow doing some sort of readings with. I haven't been able to understand exactly what they were doing there, but also there was a lot of meditational trances where it was believed that the Taltos could be even interacting with you while projecting and doing things at the same time because they have a larger spirit. It's kind of where the idea of two spirits is fairly related to the idea of two spirits, which that's actually um, something I would like to point out about the two spirits is we have a lot of connection to that in the trans community today, and that is often the case with the two spirits. But two spirit simply means someone who was born with two souls in one body, literally having two spirits. Often one of them will be of a different sex, so you wind up trans with a trans person essentially, and that's like almost always the case. But I don't know, it's not necessarily even about gender. Is my point there? In my case, I do believe that the other spirit, whom I call Alice, is what would have been my sister. And she does come out in some ways at times. But anyways, that's very off subject. I think we could talk about. Oh, we're only 38 minutes in. I might need some filler at some point. Doesn't take as long to dye this robe as I had hoped. Especially not the way I'm doing it. We might have to try something a little like, broader or something. Of course, it's just the first time around. We don't want it to be um what's the word I'm looking for? We don't want it to all be finished today, right? This is I've only done one book. I don't get to be, oh, you're a chaos adept. You have your coat of many colors. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yeah, I've been technically studying chaos magic for over 30 years, but this time around, I've only read one book. And at some point, we're going to get we are going to do my books because that only seems fair. We do hope to do the never ending story again next, or still next. I'm actually very excited about that. There's a lot to cover in the never ending story. There's a lot to cover about the occult and esoteric meaning. I said I was going to research Michael Endel some more between the last live and today. I didn't do that as much as I had hoped. I do know that he was very upset about the movie. He was so upset about the movie that that's why you don't know his name. Because when it came out, he was like, "Remove my name from this. I want nothing to do with what has happened here." And it's not because the movie is that far from the book, it's that they ended it halfway through the book, right? In the book, there's a whole buildup of him learning to understand that he's the center of the universe, essentially. He is, like I said, he is God. We are all God. We are all the center of the universe. He finds that out and that he has to name the princess and that he's the center of it all and his imagination creates everything. But they end the book there, or they end the movie there. In the book, that realization drives him nuts. And he tries to take over the universe, winds up at war with the Crystal Tower and the Master of Dreams. The Oh shoot, what do they call her in the movie? All of a sudden, I can't remember. The childlike empress. He actually goes to war with her and has to go through this whole process of finding out that he is that just because he's the center of the universe doesn't mean he's any different than anybody else and that he's special, but he's not, and getting the full context of where you are in the reality. And he almost goes mad. I mean, I'm not gonna I don't want to spoiler the whole thing. I just kind of did throw some horrible spoilers out there, but hopefully you'll forget about that by the time we get to the part of the book. Or maybe you've seen the movie. Yes, Bastion. He goes. I mean, if you've ever seen part two, because there is a part two movie. If you've seen that, then I haven't spoiled you because they go into the rest of it. But nobody likes part two, right? Because it's Yeah, remember all that stuff that happens in part 2 of the movie? That happens in the books too. That's actually that's actually the 2nd book, and I'm having trouble remembering how the movie ended right now, but I think it goes through all of that, like and yes, the emptiness. Yes. That is a big part. He talks about essentially in the 2nd part of the book, he talks about not only having to understand that everyone else has rights too, even though that everyone is creating Fantasia, not just you. Yes, you are creating Fantasia, but so is everyone, you know? But then he also needs to come to terms with the existential crisis. That's part of the book is dealing with going through the existential crisis and discovering the meaninglessness of everything and then having to find your own way to place value upon things, creating your own meaning into the mythology of the many, right? And finding that balance. But we will be talking about this a lot more. Like I said, I'm very excited to read the Never-Ending Story as an esoteric tome together. It's going to be awesome. I have a lot to say. Very good book. It's not just a young adult fiction. I mean, it is technically young adult fiction, but there's some things in there actually in the book. At least one where I was like, "What? Did it really say that in there?" Like, there's a deer man, like a stag standing upright, and it specifically mentions he has a Prince Albert piercing. And I'm like, why would you? What? Why are you bringing this up? But either way, Michael Endel was into the occult and was around some of the more famous occult workers of the time, whose names I cannot remember right now. I will try to do some more research on Michael Endel before next Wednesday. So I have more to say about the actual author. Last time we didn't do a lot of research on Peter Carroll, but most of the people discussion on Peter Carroll. I wouldn't have had to do a lot of research. I know quite a bit about the guy, really. But that's why I didn't go a big piece into a biography of the authors, because we all know who he is, right? Almost all of us know who Peter Carroll is. Yes, Felix. Prince Albert is the stop from bringing it up. This is true. Why would you even bring that up? You're like, no, it's to keep it from being brought up. This is true. This is true. Properly, a Prince Albert is to tuck it in place so that you can't see it very well. Which, even in my late 40s, it would be nice to be able to hide that. I'm not going to talk about that on the live. I've only had half of one can of beer. Certainly don't have an excuse to have said something like that. Okay. So, um, getting a bit off track. The law of aesthetics. Um, to me, this is one of the things that kind of prove. Yeah. So, to me, the law of aesthetics is one of them things that to me prove the concept that there is some kind of connected consciousness to the flow of reality and how it moves, right? I've talked before about how God is having a dream and it is not lucid. But what I mean by that is, you know, if we put it all together, all of the perceptions as one large perception, it's no longer cohesive. It no longer has a a central core because we are all the central core, right? So if you take that whole perception as one being, all of perception as total, that's the only thing that could ever be really considered God, but it isn't self aware, it isn't lucid, it doesn't have that cohesion of a self. So, and it's like it's having a non lucid dream. All of reality as a whole being experienced from that point, it's like it's there and and it's perceiving in a way, and that's what the collective consciousness is, right? But the collective consciousness isn't awake, it isn't aware. There was a mini series of Never Ending Story in 2001. Really? Hmm. All right. It would also like to remind people that libraries exist if you prefer a physical copy. When the infant passed before their soul was properly attached, so I utilized the body. Yeah, see, um, that's part of what happens with the two spirits, except for that the other body or the body is still there. Like it's not always a direct like obviously there was two twins that got absorbed. But yeah, like I said in a live one of these lives a while ago, up until the infant is actually becomes disconnected from the mother and takes its first breath, anybody can be in there. And there's not three of us in here, right? But there was, yeah, I don't know. That's a bit hard to explain. Gets a little strange there because I don't know. There's extra there, right? Anyways, that is not what I am supposed to be talking about. But I do understand what you're talking about, Keanu. Very much so. Okay. So, law of aesthetics proving that there is something, right? Because why else would there be poetry? Why else would there be random humor? Like I talk about in the Sorcerer's Shadow, I actually bring this up in a um, side law, sub law to the law of aesthetics, and that's the law of irony, which is very close to Murphy's law, but it's not that always the most the worst thing, the most possible thing will always happen at the worst possible time. It's more refined than that and more actually true. And that is that the most ironic thing that could happen at any one particular time, or anything that would be even anything that would be funny, has a higher percentage of likelihood than is statistically possible. So there is something kind of perceiving that, oh my gosh, it would be so funny if, that is part of how reality functions, part of how it weaves and moves. But it's also, when we're talking about the law of aesthetics, it's also about it would be beautiful if. Beauty has a tendency to want to manifest if we simply allow it. And that's part of how this reality has gotten off kilter, is because people don't believe in beauty anymore. We have been beaten down and subjected to a monoculture conformist mindset that is so focused on this false sense of practicality and what they call the real world, which isn't the real world. It's a bunch of fake stuff. It's a bunch of lies collected on the mental plane, a bunch of information that is opposed to what actually goes on in the real reality. But that's practicality. That's being an adult. That's taking things seriously. But we know that isn't true. It's just like with medicine. I was talking earlier about the placebo effect. And this one, it's amazing I don't harp on this more than I do, because this is the most bogus thing in the fucking world. I shouldn't have said the F word on here, but we've been on for an hour. I'll be fine. Just make sure I don't make a short of it. Anyways, but it's the most bogus thing in the world. They talk about the idea that they say faith healing doesn't exist. And then every single study they do has to take in the placebo effect, which is the amount of people that'll get better in the study simply because they have faith they're going to get better. They're going to be healed. What is that? Faith healing. Even without the magic and the context, it still kind of works just by having that theater of operation. You can't tell me the placebo effect has to be taken accounted for and tell me faith healing is fake in the same freaking sentence. That is complete BS, and it's exactly what I'm talking about. This is the perfect example. We know the truth is that belief has a factor. Doctors know that if you stay in a good mood, if you stay positive, if you laugh, this is all positive things. They talk about the mental side of it even. But faith healing doesn't work. What? Yeah, exactly. It's their word for trying to dispel magic. It's their word they use to exorcise magic from the room. They think if they give it a name, if they give it a scientific thing, then that makes it go away. But you can't dispel something by acknowledging it. It doesn't work that way. Especially when there is a base reality. As much as I keep on and on all the time about belief imparts reality, it's belief imparts reality, right? And that's the same thing, this placebo effect. It's not the whole thing. This is why they think they need to get rid of it, because they're trying to find out what's going on with the pill, but they should be incorporating it. They should be accepting the fact that this is part of reality. This fact that belief creates healing. Okay, I got a little on top of myself here, didn't I? I got a little paradoxical. But they want to believe in a world where belief doesn't affect reality. So they try to push away all these things. Anything that can be easily explained, simply boom, doesn't exist. So they take magic, they take faith, they take things that they know are real, call them placebo, and try to throw them away. And it's not just there; it's everywhere. Anytime in our culture that anything is bizarre or outside of the norm, we tend to try to disbelieve it. We've been like, "Oh, that couldn't be true. That couldn't be real." Anything odd or out of the ordinary is like a psychic sensor that covers the entire community. And that's part of why it's important to look the part, right? Because this is the one that they will accept in that role. It's a where we get the cracks in their belief system and the way that they get things to flow. Because there's been so much of this false superstition that magic doesn't exist, that it does affect how the world gets woven, right? Well, that's exactly it. It's belief imparts reality. It's not belief creates reality, right? There's a difference there because there is an underlying thing. And that's what I'm saying about like the scientists. Their belief, that belief doesn't affect reality, doesn't stop it from being affected because it's in parts. Their disbelief doesn't take away all of it because that's not the way it works. Perception creates reality in the ultimate sense. That's what creates reality is perception. Perception and belief are different. Belief affects how you react to what you perceive, what you see and what you perceive, what you register and what you have perceived. And that imparts, imprints on reality that will even affect how things get woven, but it only imparts. There is the further momentum. There's all the things that have come before, all the context of every moment that are already affecting it. And the belief of being placed on it right now is only one aspect of that full paradigm of how a moment gets manifested. And that's why it's belief imparts reality, not belief creates reality. You know, that's why the law of attraction doesn't quite work out. Now, don't get me wrong, them vision boards, that's legitimate spell work. You've got your intent, your form, your charge, and containment. You got everything you need when you're doing one of them it's not a spell board. I forget what they're called. Um the thingies they use in the law of attraction. I've made one before myself. And that's actually wound up pretty catastrophic because I wasn't thinking about it and I used my main piece as a Tal's Tower as basically a tarot card, and that's exactly what happened. I had all this stuff built up and was going a certain way, and then it all crashed, and I learned a lot. And I'm trying to rebuild that back up now. Wasn't on YouTube yet when I did that. But anyways, yeah, I was on a certain path, things were going a certain way, and then it crashed, and I wound up going on a walkabout. I don't, to be clear, I don't regret any of it. This is the way I was supposed to go. Indeed, they are strong stories in the consensus of reality. There's a lot to be used there. I just can't get myself to touch it. I just can't get myself to touch it. I don't begrudge or have anything wrong with other people using it, as long as they're not going to try and tell me that's the only true God, or get on me about stuff using it. Lots of people use it. Nothing wrong. Just not for me. Um, but even they understood the importance of looking the part. Because, like I was saying, when I was talked about this a little bit in the last live, from the age of 5 to 15, I was getting groomed to become a Baptist preacher. I was just, I like a child prodigy of Christianity kind of thing. So much so that I actually had a full ride Christian scholarship to the Pensacola Christian College, But I read too much of the Bible by then, and like the first time, but there was a lot there. When I really started like actually thinking about all the stuff I had learned and putting it all together, like it only took me a few years to realize the other people at the church weren't actually going by this book, and that was a whole thing. But yeah, I spent enough time on that one, and I felt very betrayed when I realized that this book was saying in a lot of ways that they hated me because I had all that Manitou stuff going on at the same time. I was born. It's all reversed because of the camera angle. I was born with this, you know, and I was born into a family where my father was told when he was a little boy that his firstborn son would be a Manitou, a mystery, you know, and that was me. So that was a part of me I had that's not capable of walking away from. It's me. And but if you find ways to make that resonate and work for you, like I said, use what works. That's essentially what I was told in my coming of age quest was that I don't belong to the I don't belong to the past. I belong to the future. I should take what works and go forward. Okay, let's put a little more blue. See if I can make it just work. Well, I suppose I shouldn't be doing digital versions on mine. I should be putting it on the old one, but it has my stuff on it already, anyways. Sigil. Maybe a little. Oh, we're getting low on the blue now. All right, that's it for the blue. We got a little more red and a bunch of yellow. I haven't even started with the yellow. Been grinding it down and using it as temper for something new. Cool. There's a lot of ways that you can connect Jesus to a lot of the other crossroads spirits and stuff like that. And I've seen him used effectively as an opener of the crossroads in like Santeria and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with Santeria, and it's basically like folk magic Catholicism. Okay, so I said we got one more color to do. I'm gonna need to mop the floor when I'm done here. Yes, while trending on the cross, indeed. But he's very much he talks about opening up the way, making it so that he is the go between you and heaven itself. I mean, he fits pretty well. He also fits a lot of the sun god archetypes, but that was very much on purpose, right? That's why the Bible looks the way it does, is because they were trying to use it to convert European pagans, right? So it needed to match certain things pretty well. That's why a lot of your Jesus stuff is very closely tied to the whole sun god thing, which is funny because Yahweh was the thunder god originally. Okay. So, um, I said I would have some announcements about the channel, or about not about the channel, but I said I'd have some announcements. I think we're gonna go ahead and get to those now. Yeah, Solar Hero Story within the Lunar Mysteries. Right on. That sounds interesting. Well, they've always used dead body. They still have the dead body parts of saints. You know, you go over to Europe, some of them churches over there do. They have dead saints, the whole bodies of dead saints preserved inside of them. It's very much a necromantic tradition, you know, especially with the whole communion wafer and transubstantiation, where they believe they're literally drinking the blood and eating the flesh of Jesus Christ, which they're invoking his flesh into this bread and wine. You know, it's a yeah, that's some pretty serious necromancy. Raised from the dead, the whole deal. Oh yeah, nothing wrong with necromancy. Just to be clear, nothing wrong with necromancy. We've talked about necromancy on the channel a lot. Um, one of these days, I'll bring Strid down here for a live. Y'all can meet Strid. That is a mink skull that I use as a kind of like an inflatable tulpa, kind of like a wearable tulpa, but it's more like an inflatable cost spirit that I wear when I'm astral projecting into certain locations. That way, I can be there. Like, you know, when you're lucid and or astral projecting, you ca- I can change shape. It's not like I couldn't turn myself into a mink, but when I project through Strid, I come out as a mink already. I don't have to maintain that image. I don't have to think about it. That is the suit that I am wearing. Kind of hard to get out of it. I can't change shape from that very easily when I'm projecting through her. But yeah, that's one of my more favored necromantic things. And also, of course, Boris, the steward for the cash cow sigil, is a cow skull that was reactivated. I'm not sure why I'm sitting there listing off my necromantic feats, but yeah, I like necromancy. Cool, cool. I've read some stuff like that before. Oh shoot, because you know, like I gave up on Christianity when I was 16, and then at the age of 22, I tried to rekindle, see if there was something I could get back. You know, I was like, well, what can I use from this? And I just couldn't. I just I went all the way to even just taking only the red parts of the Bible, just as specifically Jesus said. And I'm like, well, everything else is bogus, anyways, right? And even that could not for me. This transformation of the self aspect and turning it into something more, turning it into something more of a living thing. I like the idea. Yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with goodwill and charity. There's nothing wrong with trying to lessen the suffering in the world, for sure. That is, you know, and providing community, helping the sick and the poor. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. Um, altruism is a weird word for me because I don't see those things as altruistic. Because it does benefit you. It benefits you to live in a better world, to have a stronger community. These are things that, you know, certainly not in any way chastising people for doing these things or saying that it's not uh that it doesn't show good character because it does. I just I think that's what keeps some people from doing those things is because they see it as altruism, like, well, what's in it for me? What's in it for you is that you're gonna live in a better community, you're gonna have a stronger community, a better world. The happiness of your overall society will reflect in the happiness of you. So even if you don't know you're gonna be benefited from doing kind acts, you will be. Because kindness spreads kindness. Kindness breeds itself. Yeah, the Gnosticism, I might get a little more into that because I've been hearing some stuff. I haven't really studied it much. Got surface level, but it's been intriguing me lately. So I might be taking a look at it. Yes. See, there is the problem with uh, with altruism, and I I am always kind. I'm not always nice. There's a difference there. Kind means, man, that's that makes me I'm sad to hear that. But I'm glad that you managed to make it through that. But in the end, I agree with the law of reciprocity. I agree with the law of reciprocity. But before I get to that, I was saying the difference between kind and nice. Kind means doing what you can to avoid causing harm to others and doing what you can to help others that are also kind. Nice means letting people push you around. Means meeting people, and I'm if that in that case, if that's how we're going to define nice, I'm not nice. I'm very kind. I will do what I can for people when if they need help or even if they don't need help. I like to see people happy. I enjoy joy, you know. But yeah, we don't forgive the bad people. Yeah, no, we never forgive the bad people. That is, oh, you should just be nice. No, no, they weren't kind. And this is where I was about to get to the law of reciprocity, which states treat those who are kind with kindness, but those who act with cruelty to yourself or others, you do not owe them kindness and may repay your debt if it becomes necessary. You don't need to forgive. They don't, like I said, I don't believe in forgiving people like that. You can, you know, if you have to deal with these people for some reason, you don't have to attack them every time you see them, but you damn sure don't let them around your children. You know, it's just plain simple fact. There are bad people in this world that want to do bad things. And if you know someone has done something like that in the past, you are under no obligation to forgive them. You owe them nothing. Nothing. You know, if according to the law of reciprocity, if you did owe them anything, it would be cruelty. But if you don't feel the need to repay them, who cares? You don't actually owe them anything. You don't owe the cruel anything ever. Exactly. And that's just anybody that takes advantage of you. Anyone that takes advantage of you, if they apologize and you let them back in 9 times out of 10, they do something even worse the second time. Yes, resentment. This is true. Resentment is poison, is the poison of the soul. But that doesn't mean you have to forgive. That doesn't mean, okay, well, they're okay again now. No, you never have to make think that person is okay. You don't have to spend your time dwelling on what they did and why you don't like that person. But not dwelling on it and forgiveness are different things, right? Forgiveness means, oh, it's okay. No, no, it's not. And it never will be. But that's their problem, not yours, right? That's the way I see such things. Yeah, but it's important to stand up to those people, or else you'd still be getting abused. You know, they're I'm very proud of you for standing up for yourself, Black Una Griffin. Oh, indeed, everyone has different views. Indeed, everyone has different views. To me, we should never forgive the cruel because forgiveness is saying, "Oh, well, it's okay." No, if this is someone that what they did is something that you can accept that it happened and continue a situation with this person, okay, fine. But forgiveness to me means saying that what happened was okay and it wasn't. There can be a making even, there can be a making up, but to me, I've never had anybody that did me wrong that I forgave and let back in not do me wrong again. Not that I can think of. There may be somebody, but apparently whatever they did the first time wasn't so bad that I remember that they did anything wrong. But I'm not good at forgiveness, honestly. If I feel betrayed, if I let somebody in, if I let them close, because you know, I have a big heart and I will let people in, you know. But if I let you in to my heart and then you do something that I see as betrayal, which basically means you intentionally hurt me, I'm not good at forgiving at all. It doesn't happen. I don't think it ever has. I don't think I've had people rip me off, and that's not like betrayal. I've had people steal from me that I have let back in, and they've stolen more. That's happened more than once in my life. For people that I have, I mean, there are a few people here. I mean, if he had admitted what he did, yeah, it's it is hard and complicated, you know. Yeah, I haven't seen too many people escape the heroin. Mm. But that's another level. Just watching somebody destroy themselves. But even that, like it sounds like there was more going on there. But just watching someone destroy themselves. At some point, you can try to save somebody, but at some point, if they just keep destroying themselves, whatever the thing, if it's heroin, if it's whatever it is, You can only throw them so many safety rafts. You can only throw them so many lifelines. And if they quit taking them, it's a cruelty to yourself to stand there and continue watching them drown. That's the way I see it. That being said, the person that I came to that conclusion with did drown eventually. I'm totally terrified of it. Heroin. Um, I don't like opiates. Like I've had to be on different painkillers and stuff when I got hurt. That being said, the sap of the poppy flower, I'm afraid to say it directly on here since I'm going to say that I really liked that. Like I've come across it a few times in my life and went on a few binges of it. So I'm terrified of it. I um like luckily the sap is not that common to acquire. So that's fairly safe because how do you get addicted to something you can't you can't source? But I do believe many past lives I've been a little too close to that flower, which is why I'm completely terrified of heroin. I feel like it might just one time and it would have me. Might. So I will never. That's very off the list. Never. I do not want to be owned by a. Poppies are beautiful. And like I said, I have enjoyed the sap of the poppy flower the times I've come across it in this life, and I know past lives I was a very big fan. Last time I was sorcerer Tal, I was enough to be a problem several times in my life. That was the last time I was sorcerer Tal, which would have been like the 1800s, late 1800s, like mid late 1800s into the early 1900s, maybe. No, no, because I think I died during the Civil War or just before. But either way, that's very off subject. Um, yeah, like I said, we're going to talk about some stuff, but I already planned on getting a little tipsy tonight and not sticking to subject, to be honest. So I don't know why I'm concerned with that. Yeah, the last time I was called myself Sorcerer Tao, like I said, I had an issue with that stuff, but also I seem to have walked from well, started in England, must have got across the channel somehow. Obviously, couldn't have walked across the channel. And wound up clear over in Laotia. Just walked all the way there, I think, and wound up addicted to opium in a den there. And then I came out of it and took a boat all the way back to Europe. Died just before the Civil War because I wound up over in the Americas and ran my mouth about what I thought about slavery in a very epic way. Didn't get away with it. Anyways, um, yeah, never been a fan of slavery, obviously, but like even back in the old times when things were different and it was common, yeah, pretty obviously wrong, right? And that's why a lot of people say, "Oh, they're a product of their time with shit like that," and I'm like, you know, past life memory. I remember it's not an excuse. Oh, are you a lumper? So you gotta throw boxes around. Anyways, good night, my spiritual tarot. Um, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you'll catch us again in the future. It's been nice. It's been fun having you on here, and sweet dreams and all that. Yeah, it was pretty obvious. Yeah, but yeah, slavery pretty obviously wrong. It's one of the you know, I've had some past lives where I was a Roman even, and there was. I mean, I've been a slave in past lives, but I've never had one. Uh, Not that I kept. Let's put it that way. Not that I kept. That's how I got Sorcerer Tile last time. I bought a bunch of people. It was like just buying people and letting them free. And the Southerners down there didn't care for it. They didn't care for that down in Florida in the 1860s. Did not like what I was doing. But yeah, like I said, I've been a slave. Like I had 3 lives as a Roman, and then I managed to get away from having to be a Roman anymore. The first one, I was literally a bathhouse slave, but I was a Roman slave. So it wasn't like as far as slavery goes, I suppose it wasn't so bad, right? I I was owned by the city essentially, by the state, and I had to clean the bathhouse every day. Like they take and bring you into them tile bathhouses like you see. And I don't know what the point of chaining us all to it was, but they chain us all to a big leather squeegee thing. We just squeegee all the tile in the whole bathhouse. We had to do it every day. But other than that, we were free. Like they'd unchain us from the thing at the end of the day, give us enough money and give us money and food, like enough money to go have some fun, some bread, and they took care of our lodging. So other than the fact that I had to be there every day for a certain amount of time and some of the things that, you know, you're a dude in a Roman bathhouse that's considered property. It's not like bad things didn't happen or whatever you want to call that. Um, yeah, that was the whole life. I don't know how I died. Second one, I was actually a gladiator, which, you know, it's like, oh yeah, da, da, da. Everyone thinks there was a Roman gladiator. It wasn't as great. It isn't as glamorous as they think, right? I think I was Roman that time as well, like actually Roman, but sold to the Colosseum for my father's gambling debts or something like that. And yeah, the Colosseum, the gladiatorial life, it's not some glamorous thing. It's not like, I don't know. Like, you didn't even actually kill people most of the time. Gladiators, most of the time, you were just hitting each other. And that's actually how I died in that one, was I accidentally killed another gladiator who was more popular than me. And so in retribution for that, they fed me to the lions. That's like, I'll never forget that image. I'll never forget that image of the lion mouth closing around my face. That was the last thing I saw in that life. I will never forget that image. And then the third one, I was a Roman soldier. And that's the one I have the most trouble dealing with. Because, well, it's the gladiator, like I said, other guy I accidentally killed was another gladiator. Like it wasn't, you didn't die that often. I got killed. I died because they considered me a murderer for killing that other guy in the in the gladiatory arena, even though it was an accident. Like literally, that's how rare it was for someone to just get killed. Was I accidentally killed him in the fight, and I basically got executed for it. And it wasn't on purpose. Fed me to lions for it. Anyways, the Roman soldier actually has some PTSD from that, like past life trauma, but mostly from like, oh, we're gonna talk about that. There's that story of the Romans coming across that grove and they killed all the druids. Yeah, that was pretty hard for me to deal with. I don't think so. I think if I remember correctly, like I tripped. I was swinging at him and I tripped and my sword blade came out too far and I hit him in the neck. I know that's what happened is I lost my balance somehow and I hit him in the neck with a sword. That was the end of that. And yep, they were like, "For doing that, we're feeding you to the lions." I was executed for it. That's how uncommon it was for people to die in the gladiator pits. You know, it was sports. It was like baseball or football. You know, only if I was told I could kill him, I could have. You know, like if I'd won the match and they said, "Yeah, kill him," that part was real. But it was pretty rare for them to say, "Yeah, kill him," especially with another popular gladiator. I think that was a big part of it. That probably cost him a lot of money. He was more famous. He was more important than me, you know. I was just some gladiator. He was a big name, I think. Anyways, yeah, the Roman soldier one. That one is one of the ones where I still like, oh man, that happened, you know. And then after that, I was back to being a Gaul, which is what I had been before that. I made it back to Gaul, and I guess somehow gotten back into the humans there. Well, yeah, the Strid was a big deal after that for a while. How many times have I lost my life? Summoned toll, lost my soul, skull still swimming in the bottom of the Strid. I woke up singing that one day. There's a big deal, like of some stuff there right after that about me and the Strid and throwing myself in over and then having another life, throwing myself in. Like I said, had some trauma from what I had done. Tried to make up for it. How many times have I given my life? Some and told, sold my soul, skull still spinning in the bottom of the Strid. Okay, so um, do a little more red. No, let's get to the yellow. We're gonna do all three of these bottles tonight because they're what happened to randomly appear around the time I started talking about doing this. Let's turn this back up. Okay, we're on the back here now. Try to do this one a little different than the others. Get more like a grip pattern going this time, maybe. Maybe even. You know, because anywhere it touches and goes across the other ones, it'll turn green or I guess orange. Interesting. It does not seeping into see this spot here where there was the old dye? It's not going in there as well as it is in other places. I wonder if I can get it to mist more by doing it this way. There we go. Look, check that out. That's cool. Okay, turn it Just a little on the front before I run out completely. Okay. With that being done, I'm going to go take my first intermission. Be back in just a moment. Okay, I'm back. It's been kind of nice not having as much of a subject to stick to tonight. I mean, we are kind of, I'm trying to talk about, trying to keep talking about love. Oh, died my titty. But anyways, yeah, it's been nice being able to just jump around subject a little more tonight without feeling like I'm, losing track of the episode. Um, what was I about to say about that? Okay, so yeah, um, one of these days we're gonna do an episode about past life trauma and how to deal with it. Because if you start digging into your past life stuff, you're gonna come across this stuff. Like the Roman soldier one, that's more like almost more past life karma, but I don't believe in karma in the way of like getting punished for doing bad things, except for that I wish I hadn't helped the Romans. At this point, I'm not sure I should have helped the goddamn American Revolution. Not that I did a lot. I was a smuggler at the time and helped get guns from England to North America, or to the colonies, whatever. I wasn't some big part or anything, but now I'm like, man, I shouldn't have give them fuckers them guns. Look what they did. Look what they're doing. It might have been better off if it was all Canada. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that politics at the moment. It's just that, you know, thinking about past life stuff and going, man, maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't. Anyways, definitely, you know, not every war I've ever been in was wrong. I fought in World War II. So I stepped on a landmine just outside of Berlin. Blew myself to Kingdom Come just before we got there. But the Americans, the Russians already had the city anyways. Damn Americans. We were just a flash in the pan at the end of the war. And I was an American by then. And my second life as an American. Well, no, because that one I wouldn't have. I guess in my first life as an American. The one before that, I was an immigrant. Anyways, um, yeah. So we've talked a bit about the law of aesthetics already, but in a lot of ways, this is one of the things I'm constantly going off about because the law of aesthetics is what gives it all purpose. This is what gives it all meaning. And whatever your meaning, aesthetic, chooses to be. And even if it's not about making things necessarily beautiful to other people, I'm not saying we all have to go make paintings. I'm not saying we all have to go create statues. I'm saying that in order to really resonate with your power, you need to find the poetry of your life, the mythos that is you. Put yourself in the context of creation of your story because you have a story in which you are the main character. And once you really accept that, it's kind of hard not to express yourself in your story, to really give into yourself and becoming what you are, becoming what you desire to be, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. There is the meaning, there is the purpose. That's what we're here for, is to create our own lives, to live our life as an art form, whatever that art form may be, right? Like I said, you know, anything can be an art. Anything that is your drive, your passion, your self-expression, your whatever grooves you, as I would have said in my life before this one. But like I said, also this is what shows the not consciousness, but what do you want to call it? Inherent preference in reality. What resonates best, what creates more magic in a world is the mythology of the many. Each person having their story and being fully into themselves and perceiving on all three planes as much as possible, rather than as we are now on this reality, all focused on a particular aspect of the mental plane with a whole set of ideas that are inherently false. And I'm not saying that everyone on this live is stuck in that. I'm talking about the full collective consciousness of this reality has been pulled into this materialistic philosophy, mutual weaving, mutual deification. Indeed, I like this term, mutual myth weaving. I like it. I like that quite a bit. You may hear me quoting you in the future. I'll try to remember to attribute, but you may hear me using that phrase in the future. But yeah, that is how we create a more beautiful reality. That's how we create a more magical world, is by accepting that we are magic, that we each have meaning within ourselves. This is where the nihilists fuck it all up. I need to quit using the F word on the lives. But this is where the nihilists mess it all up. Is looking for meaning outside. Meaning is inherent to the self. And even if reincarnation wasn't real, that wouldn't matter. But we have this meaning that we can carry forward. I mean, yeah, it's hard to hold on to a lot of memories, right? But it is from day to day, at least for me. Hell, I remember more about what it was to be a Roman soldier than I can tell you what I was doing 5 years ago. Right? But there is a meaning that we can carry forward, a sense of self, so that that expression can go on in simply new forms, right? Because we're not, we are heavily affected by the body that we're in. No matter how cohesive the sense of self is, you're going to be a little bit different inside a different brain, inside a different body. Lee Morgan. Try to remember that. Well, either way, thank you for introducing me to the term. Because that is exactly what we're trying to do. But the problem we're coming across is that all of us being focused on this thing that's coming from the Western world, if you want to call it that, civilization is this practicality, what we're as acting as if we're practical, simply because we've decided only the things that are predictable are real. That's not practicality. That's putting your head in the sand. No, that's wanting to believe everything can be put into boxes when it can't. And that's why they get so stubborn about it. Even totally rational scientists, people that have supposedly highly intelligent, if people in this category that will literally see a ghost and not believe in them. They would prefer to doubt the evidence before their own eyes than accept that not everything fits in their little equations. Science is a beautiful thing. Science is important. But it's important for a scientist to not be blind, to not be biased. And there's this bias towards what they pretend is simply focusing on the material realm, what is going on in the physical world. But it doesn't really work like that. Especially when they start really getting down into it with this quantum physics, they're realizing it's not understandable. And I'm not saying I understand quantum physics, to be fair. Nobody does. Nobody understands quantum physics. I'm sure a quantum physicist will tell you that more than anybody else. And there's a lot of Dunning-Kruger for me when I'm trying to talk about these things. I know that. I don't, it takes years and years of study to have any freaking clue. But neurotypical disorder, Cartesian head trauma. Yes, domestication. See, there is the word that, like, when people talk about being an adult, especially, like, what do you mean? You mean I expect me to be domesticated? Expect me to play the game exactly and read the scripts the way I'm supposed to? When the scripts don't work, you know, it makes me think of I can't remember his name, but we're gonna say the same thing with drones. There was a general in World War I that kept sending people on horses into a crossfire of guns because he just couldn't accept that guns were the end be all of it all at that point. If we study quantum physics, we cannot understand quantum physics together. Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, when they talk about this idea of adulting, that's all I hear is become domesticated. No, I will hang on to my feralness. Thank you. And domestication, see, that's the crazy part. We have domesticated ourselves, right? You can look at animals, like they're between a dog and a wolf. Dog's got softer teeth, rounder teeth, and that happens quickly. With pigs, you can go the other way. They go feral, and their teeth will automatically get sharper. They'll get furrier, and but my point here is all the things that happened in domestication. 'Cause that didn't just happen to wolves; it happened to foxes, right? You got like the silver fox and the domesticated foxes. They, to me, an adult is someone who's in communion with their ancestors. Fair point. Fair point. But I just a lot of times when people say an adult, be an adult, they mean go do the things you're supposed to do in modern society. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, being an adult, that's like I said, I had a quest that I was taking on at 14, like not a quest, what do you want to call it? A vision thing. I don't know. I hate using the word vision quest. Makes it just sounds so cheesy to me and like, I don't know. I look awfully pale to be using the word vision quest. But um yeah, when I was taken on my ceremony when I was 14, when I was sent to go do the thing, I suppose then I was, that was becoming an adult. I was being told what my path was, what it was that my bloodline expected from me, and that's what I was told. I'm not supposed to be in a museum. I'm not part of the past, part of the future. I should take what works, leave the rest, and go forward. So, fair point, Keanu. Suppose I am an adult. I'm just not domesticated. Back to my point. All of them have certain things in common. All domesticated species. Softer teeth. I mean, rounder teeth, softer features. The ears start to flop. You get some of these silver foxes. They're starting to flop already. There's softer hair, all kinds of little things. What's interesting about that is humans all have those traits. Humans have domesticated themselves. We aren't just domesticating other things. We aren't just bringing things under our will. Whatever this thing is, this domestication, this controlling conformity, it's taken over the humans too. It's not just the thing. It's not just something we're doing to animals and plants. It's happening to us too. And fair, fair. There's a very good argument to be made for the idea that wheat and corn actually domesticated us. I mean, we certainly serve it. But either way, we've got round teeth and softer features than like the uncontacted tribe, people in the uncontacted tribes and people that live out in the bush. They have sharper teeth. They have a little bit. I don't even know how to put. I said softer features, and I don't know how to say theirs aren't really harder because they're smilier, but there's a difference. You look at these people, you can see it, but also their teeth are a little different. Their ears tend to be firmer. There's a whole thing there. But also, this makes me wonder how magic works on Sentinel Island. Is the veil different there? because they've never been told to focus on this other thing. They may have some other completely mad thing they're all focusing on. Who knows what's going on Sentinel Island? You know, the Sentinelese. I'd like to know though. You know, I have noticed my nails and teeth getting sharper when I'm living a more wild lifestyle for sure. When I was on my first walkabout, yeah, I guess that would be my first actual walkabout. I was in an area just above Santa Barbara, California, like Goleta, and there was a pier there that I was catching mackerel from every day and basically living in my car on the beach. I had like $100 unemployment coming in. Anyways, eating all that mackerel and living that way, like $100 coming in when you're living in that area, that's enough for gas and that's enough for gas, cigarettes, and pot. I was living off the land. I know that's horrible that I prioritize my money with those things, but I couldn't get those off the land. I can get food and water off the land. So yeah, but during that time, my teeth definitely got sharper and my nails got so goddamn hard that I could carve pine wood with my fingernails. Not like hardwood, but like pine wood and stuff. I could literally scratch parts of it off with my fingernails. Clay of the Cosmic Forge. And that was by you said here this little Lee Morgan. Yeah? Do I hunt? Um, Now that I'm up here in Canada, it'll be a while before I go hunting again. But yes, I was raised. You know, I was raised in Utah, but I'm definitely come from a hunting culture where we believe that you're supposed to be taking a big part. It's just So I suppose it wasn't that much difference. Um, I've hunted. I mostly hunt small game. Here, I'm gonna need to get. I need to get all my stuff in order in Canada before I can go hunting. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's something that we would find in your Substack there. See, the fishing, like I was raised with the hunting and fishing, but fishing was the thing my dad focused on. I I fish now, like fishing. I say that fishing is my religion, right? Magic is my spirituality, and often I will use my spirituality in connection with my religion because I give tobacco to the water. I thank the ocean for the for what I'm given. I also sometimes beg the ocean, like, "Come on, give me a fish, please." you know, but that's spirituality. Awesome, cool. So, um, you know, but there's dogma passed down from generation to generation about how to catch the fish. It's a thing that, in and of itself, has inherent meaning because um, we often will catch and release, especially bass and pike, but perch, bluegill, crappie, stuff like that. I'm taking that home. I'm eating that. That's good stuff. And me and Felix go fishing here, and I'm trying to teach them about my religion. They're very heretical. They use all kinds of what they call bait theater, but it catches fish, so it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, if you're catching fish, you're doing it right. But if I'm going to call it my religion, then they're definitely very heretical. But that's okay. I love them anyways. In fact, I love how heretical they are. They got like all kinds of crazy stuff on their line. We've been using spoons, like literal spoons, not like a fishing spoon, but like a spoon from the kitchen, putting a hook on it. I have been. That's what I was saying. I was throwing a fork out the other day with a hook, but I don't think it'll work. I think the fork could pry the hook right out if I actually had gotten a fish on that. Anyways, point of the story is yes, I fish. I consider it a deep part of my culture, and it's the only thing I have that I consider religion because there's dogma attached. There's a whole idea of it being inherent value. There's values passed down from father to son over generations. And there's just all this in depth, uh, familial thing with it. And so that's my religion. And I don't think it's really diametrically opposed to my spirituality. Like I said in the live a little while ago, anybody have interesting dreams lately? I dreamed about Joshua Wittershins the other day. I dreamed he was wearing a shirt with his sigil all over it and was trying to give me something. It's part of the reason I got that shirt on because it looked the most like the shirt was in the dream. Yeah, it does sound interesting. Clay of the Cosmic Forge. They sent me a link, and I'll share that with you too, love. I'll take a look at that. It actually does sound quite cool. Let's see. I mean, I have pretty intense dreams on a regular basis. You know, I actually, by talking about my cousin Marv, I had a dream the other day that he was still alive, and I was like, "What the hell?" And he was like apologetic for still being alive, which was odd. It was a weird dream, but he had cremation ashes all over him, and I figured out what that's about because I was given some of his ashes, and I've done some work on that, and it has to do with that. And it's time for me to do a little more there because he did a lot of bad in his life. And when I was given his ashes after he passed, I felt like using necromancy, I could give part of him a chance to make up for that, you know, try and put things right a little, which is why in the dream he said, "Oh, I'm just trying to put back together shattered lives." So it was a dream about that particular part of the necromancy getting back in. Oh, the black dog. Well, that's cool. Have you followed him? He's been trying to lead. Is it if he goes somewhere, you should follow him. At least in my experience. Cool. That is a significant thing with Hecate. The dreams of the black dog. I think at one point you were saying you weren't wanting to interact with her as much as she's been drawing to you. So I mean, if that's the case, don't follow the black dog. Because that's definitely an invitation to interact. I think I may have upset somebody. I had a higher number of likes on the live than I suddenly do now. Somebody took back their like. Probably the hunting and fishing stuff. I know that does offend some people, you know. The but I mean, I have nothing against people that don't eat meat. To be clear, nothing against people that don't eat meat. Oh, I know it wasn't. I think obviously it wasn't you. Obviously, it wasn't you. You were the one that asked if I hunted. It could have been just somebody in the background. I don't know. I hope I didn't. I mean, it be what it be. You know, like on Facebook, I like to post some of my fishing pictures, and once I get back into hunting, you know, it's horrible. I'm one of them guys that's got all them pictures of him and his fish. You know, I'm definitely that guy. I won't even deny it. But I keep um I keep them in a special folder, and I post it before any season, and when I know I'm gonna start getting a lot of fish or know I'm gonna start getting a lot of whatever, I will post on there. Let me know if you don't want to see these, and I'll remove you from the folder because I don't want to offend anybody. I mean, I'm gonna keep doing what I do. This was how I was raised. I mentioned before about me not quite understanding the whole race thing up until, well, when I was 14 years old. I was with my buddy Carlos Campos, and if you didn't guess, Carlos Campos was a Mexican kid, and he was like my best friend. And we're talking about going into the woods, and I jokingly say to him, "Yeah, it'll be fun, man, but I don't know about bringing a white boy like you into the woods." And he stops and he looks at me, and then he looks at his wrist and the brown skin on his wrist, and then he looks over at my pale self, back down at his wrist, and he's like, "Dude, we need to talk." And before that, I honestly believed that it had a lot to do with your diet and where you got food from. And I believe my mom was white and my dad was Native American, which is true. But I thought it was because my dad mostly wanted us to live off of fish and hunting and that kind of stuff. And, we lived in a trailer because that was, you live with the woman, right? And no, it's not like my dad's parents lived in a teepee, but they lived in the woods, you know? And autistic and being only like 14, I hadn't figured out it anything. Took me that long to figure out that race had anything to do with color, skin color. I thought it had to do with how you lived. You know, my dad's parents lived in the woods, mostly ate stuff that they caught. We lived in a house, but mostly got stuff, but mostly lived off of stuff that we caught. So, and I was told I was part. I was like, so that's how I thought it worked. Was very confused. Yeah, that's what I thought. Basically, I thought it was, if you were native, you weren't civilized. That thing that I'm talking about here, I thought that meant you weren't that. And that's all I thought it was. But Carlos explained it to me as best he could. Now came home from his house that day very confused. Talked to my parents about it, and they explained it to me because they didn't want racism of any kind, so they just had never really talked to me about race. Like there was an African American kid in my elementary school that all the other kids picked on. And even when I asked my mom about it, I guess I didn't fully understand the explanation. She said they were picking on him because he was dark skinned, and I figured, okay, it was just civilized. If you'll forgive the term, white people don't pick on people for all kinds of weird shit. They were just picking on him because he didn't look like the other white people. I know that's weird, right? Autism and unclear things. Yes, and grew. Thank you for reminding me about that part. Man, we had even though I grew up in a trailer park, we had a huge garden because there was this field behind our house, And my dad just took the fence down and extended it so we could grow like this huge garden in our backyard. You know, and that's where all our vegetables came from. And we most of this meat we got was either fish or small game because that's what my dad liked was small game. There was a lot of it. We ate a lot of fish. You know, we still ate stuff. We did eat stuff from the store too. It's not like I never ate from the store when I was a kid. But yeah, Carlos had me so confused. I'll never forget that moment. I called him a white boy. He stops, he looks at his arm, looks over at me, looks back at his arm, he's like, dude, we need to talk. I've got to. You can't keep doing that. You're gonna. This is not gonna end well for you if you say this to somebody else, buddy. He was a good. He was a good guy. Jehovah's Witness played Dungeons and Dragons with me up until the very day Jehovah's Witness declared it satanic, and it was weird because he knew the day. Like he's like, okay, I can play up until this day, and then I guess they were gonna get together and decide, and everybody knew already what they were gonna decide. So, yeah, play could play with me up until that day, and then they officially declared it satanic, and they couldn't play it no more. I'd like to claim our relationship stayed the same after that, but then we got a little bit older. I discovered marijuana, and he didn't. Oh yeah, I mean, I I get the impression it's a very intolerant, very controlling. Yeah, yeah, that's the impression I get. You know, Carlos was awesome, and I mean, honestly, his parents were very standoffish. I don't know what to say about his parents except for that. Um, he wasn't actually just Mexican. He was his dad was Mexican and his mom was Korean. He called himself a Mexorean. But the only thing I can say about his parents was his mom sure could cook some like I never had food anything like it. It was like a Mexican Korean fusion. It's like she cooked Mexican food with Korean spices sometimes, and other times Korean food with Mexican spices. Either way, the only thing I can tell you about his parents was that his mom was they were very strict, but I would do anything I could to ingratiate themselves with them with me enough that they would invite me to dinner because I loved her cooking. It was weird and it was good. But I've always liked Unique. I've always liked Unique, and her like whatever that was convinced me I liked Korean food. And then I had some. Then I went to a Korean restaurant as an adult. It was not what she made. Don't get me wrong. Some Korean food's good, especially the Korean barbecue. Some of that stuff is very unique flavors, though. Anyways, I got to do an intermission again. Back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. All right. So I mentioned Oh, that's sad to hear, Kiana. What you're saying there about the commonality between Catholic priests and Jehovah's Witness guys. Oh, I hope nothing like that ever happened to Carlos. Jesus. But I had heard things like that before. It's not the first I've heard of that. Yeah, like I wasn't even allowed in the house most of the time. Sometimes I could come in to eat if I had really ingratiated myself, like done a bunch of yard work or something, you know. It was not a common occurrence. But man, did I like her food. I would like have to be on my absolute best behavior, but I didn't care. I just wanted some more of that food. It was good stuff. But I've always been a food motivated person, right? I mean, like, you know, I don't eat a lot of food unless it's really good. Like, and then I will eat mass quantities, especially when I was a kid. I'd eat barely anything, or I'd eat the whole fridge. Very little in between. Yeah. Anytime you have high control environments, I mean, that's one of the dangers inherent in any authoritarianism is people with power taking advantage of that power. Especially then if you've got secrecy in on top of that, then you pretty much you've created a breeding ground for things like that. That's why all cults are bad. That's why all cults are bad because it creates too much potential for that sort of thing to happen. Even if possibly the cult leader himself maybe believes the thing and isn't the one doing the abuse, it's still the people below him. Even that's why it's not okay to start a cult because you'll wind up even if you don't do it anything wrong yourself, you're going to wind up enabling abuse. That's why I've never. Well, it's not the only reason, but it's why I've never started a cult. One of the many reasons. That's why I want to be a solitary practitioner. That's why even when I have started my own covens, I've done things to keep it from getting too big, too, or especially people too listening to me for all the answers. Because remember, I do not have all the answers. We need to keep that in mind anytime we're on my channel. I'm just some guy drinking cider and smoking pot over here. I certainly don't have all the answers. I do happen to know some things, and I would like some things that I would very much like everyone to get on the same page about. Yes. And one of those structures is making sure everybody knows that I am not infallible. I am not infallible and must be questioned from time to time. Like back in the day, I don't do it so much on the YouTube because it's not going to work out the same way. But I would purposely make errors before. Like in the past, when I was teaching people, like, on a personal level, I would purposely say some stupid stuff sometimes just to make sure that they would question. And a lot of times they wouldn't. That's why yeah, that's why I like this method better. Or you'd have people that you teach them something, uh, and 3 years later they're come back and telling you the same thing, like some kind of epiphany, and they're teaching you about it. That's annoying too. Much less annoying for me though than people that try to guru you, and decide, oh, you're a good person all the time and can be trusted. Community as guru. Yes, there you go. There needs to be, for one thing, the biggest thing that you can't have is all the secrecy. If you have some kind of community, the one thing you cannot have is all the secrecy. Everything needs to be out in the open. Everybody needs informed consent on everything that is going on. And you can't have one person making all the goddamn decisions. Democracy must democrate. Democracy must democrate because that is, as I said before, that's, well, it's the way to prevent abuse, which is what we're kind of talking about now, but it is also the way reality itself functions. So if you're having a true magical order, as opposed to a religious order, right? If I was making an order about fishing, which is my religion, I would put people. It would be hierarchical. Who knows the most about fishing? Who's caught the most fish? Who knows about this area? It'd be hierarchical about each lake because I don't honestly believe in the structure of hierarchies, but there would be a some authority structure. When you're talking about magic, you can't have that. I mean, over time, some people are gonna have some people's words are gonna have more influence over other people's votes than other people's words. And that's fine. That's the nature of how things work, you know? But you can't have a leader except for in a particular thing. Like, okay, next week we're doing a protection spell for the Elder Forest Reserve, right? And there would be you could pick a person, like, okay, this is your project. You figure it all out. Tell us how we can help. You set up you do all the logistics. But you can't have somebody that's like, okay, this is the guy, this is the person, and they always set everything up. It can't be that kind. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Role based hierarchy. Like, okay, well, this person is the one that's the best at setting up this kind of freaking ceremony. So we're all going to do what they say. We're going to let them take the lead. And then this person is the best for doing this kind of thing. So we're going to let them take the lead on that. And we all vote on who's going to take the lead on stuff. That's the way I think such things should be. I mean, at the moment I'm a solitary practitioner. So take that as you will. But yeah, we're all the leader when anyone can be the leader when they know the thing, when they know where we're going. The leader should be the person that knows where you're going, but it's not that shouldn't always be the same person. It's important that's not always the same person. Exactly. Ladders fall down. Ladders don't get you everywhere you want to go. Other than like I was talking about the lodge ceremony earlier. I've got some holes over here in the ceiling, and I might need to put a ladder up to one of those once I make them actual holes. I have some interesting idea for the vent holes in the ceiling. Not an actual hole in the ceiling. Like there's a thing in the roof. There's all kinds of stuff, but I have some plans. And luckily, Felix is pretty much on board for most of them because they do technically own the house. I do have to get approval from Felix to be doing stuff, married or not. One has to respect these things, right? It's important. Yeah, I've seen people take a weekend workshop and then start promoting themselves as a teacher guru of yeah. Oh, it's amazing how often that happens. They take one class and then, but it's because that's what they wanted. They're not there to learn. They're there either to make money from teaching or they wanted the ego from it, you know? And sadly, a lot of people can't just pick that up right off the bat, you know? So, unfortunately, a lot of people that know nothing about anything are able to take advantage of a lot of people. It's absurd. But in our modern world, you have a lot of people that are just trying to escape reality, right? So that's how come there's so much going on with all these different cults and all this different stuff, and people just being willing to believe the absurd. It's because they want an escape from what they know isn't reality, right? That particular part of the mental plane that we think is the material plane that I've been harping on this whole particular live about how that's a real issue and that's what's keeping us all in balance. These people, that's why cults are so prevalent at this point, and different conspiracy theories, because basically your different conspiracy theories when they all start getting together, that's a cult. That is another form of a cult. It's like the MAGA party and all that shit. These are cults. They got that same thing. They're not willing to they have just decided to completely abandon reality because they know the thing we're all focusing on isn't real. There's something wrong here. This isn't the reality. So, trying to find rather than trying to find reality, they just abandoned the idea and decided that they're just going to believe whatever it is they want. They know the handed down model isn't the truth. And maybe some of them are just really trying to find the truth, just not very good at it. Or, as far as cults go, maybe they were that good of the leader who was that charismatic. It's a lot easier to convince people of something than to convince them that they have been bamboozled. You know, it strikes me as something that somebody told me while I was doing the ghost tours. Because I was doing ghost tours for quite a while there. I'd really like to get back into that, but either way, I'm telling the ghost stories, and I make sure that I get the history right. When I told the ghost stories, I feel like there's certain people that are there for this ghost story, and there are other people there that would love to hear about the history of the different buildings I'm talking about as I'm walking along talking about the different stuff that happened there. All right, Kiana, we're going to be heading off ourselves in another half hour, but sweet dreams, and thank you for sharing that link with me. I'm going to check it out. I'll share it with Felix as well. And yeah, we'll see you next time. I'm pretty sure you're subscribed already. Oh, I do have a couple announcements that I need to get to for the future. Um, yeah, maybe we'll wait till Wednesday for the other one. No, we'll go ahead and talk about it now. I don't have a shared link, but we have started renting one of the rooms. It's an Airbnb up here in on Gabriola Island. Let me see if I can. Just a moment. What is it doing to me here? Oh, that's what it's done. Okay. Switch to hosting. I think that I can actually just share the listing. So yeah, we're doing an Airbnb. It's 100 and something, like it comes about 109 a night, 130, something like that. I think there's a way I can. Oh well, go to the listing first, silly. Listings. I think there's a way I can share a link. Yeah, there we are. Oh, there we are. Yeah, there's the Airbnb. Yeah, we're doing an Airbnb up here in Gabriola. Uh, you know, come hang out with me. Do anybody that's from here, if you say you're from the YouTube channel and you want to hang out with me, I will take time to be around and hang out with you. But it's actually, this is an amazing place. Not just the house itself. The room is great. We've spent a lot of time getting it set up, you know, but the island itself is just awesome. I really enjoy being here. We're trying to, like I was saying, I'm in between becoming a citizen. So this is like kind of the only thing I have for work is helping with stuff like this. So, any of y'all want to come up here and hang out? We do have a Airbnb, talk magic, maybe do some lessons. I would still be an extra fee if I did like a bunch of readings for you and stuff like that. But just talking about stuff. I'm pretty sure most of you that have stuck around this long for the night are people that I would love to meet. Okay, so there's that announcement. That's the one that I needed to discuss with the rest of the roommates before I talked about it. Make sure that they were cool with people from the channel potentially showing up on the Airbnb. But there's another one. I haven't decided on the day yet, but I'm going to start building me a temple. I'm not going to use. I decided I don't want to use the word tower for this. Remember talking about remember the image board earlier. I don't need the whole thing coming collapsing down in on me again. So we're going to call it temple. But I'm literally going to build one out of stone, and we're going to do some videos on that. Probably be a bit of a long-term project. So those are my two big announcements. Those will be done. Yeah, like the Airbnb. I figured since we're opening our house up to whoever's on Airbnb, might as well open it to people on here as well. Like I said, if you say on the ad that you saw it on YouTube and want to hang out with me, I'll make sure I make some time. Especially for those of you that I've been talking with on here, if any of you decide that you would like to do the Airbnb, we'd hang out, whatever. Anyways, so those are the updates. While I'm at that kind of stuff, I am supposed to plug the channel. Temple building, yes. We actually have like 3 driveways here at the property, but one is facing directly onto. There's like over 1,000 yards of parkland forest right connected to the house here, and the trailhead is directly across from one of the driveways. I'm going to make a foundation there, get it nice and flat, and build me a stone temple. There's all kinds of little not little, but there's all kinds of like granite stones on the property. I'm going to gather them all up and do like a circle, because when you have things with a curve, it adds structural integrity, and you actually need a smaller amount of stones. And I'm going to go up about as far as I can with those, depending on how many stones I get. And from there, we're probably going to do cob. And I'm just going to build me a temple area to like offer readings to people in the area. I won't be able to charge legally. I won't be able to charge for those until I get my open work visa. But yeah, so I'm going to build that. and I'm going to do a bunch of videos on that, and I'll explain the things about the flow. Remember, I was talking about the hole in the ceiling and like the whole thing with the lodge ceremonies that both the Taltos and the Manitous had in common. I'm going to incorporate some of those ideas, and we will talk. I'll talk about it on the videos. I was thinking about doing them as lives, but I'm not going to be able to pay attention to what people have to say while I'm trying to build the thing. So I'm just going to film it and then post that. And that brings me to the plugging that I was supposed to be doing. Um, if you get a membership, the 99 cents membership, you will get a lot more of the unedited footage of me building the temple. Like I said, I'm not going to put anything important behind a paywall, you know, but some of the bloopers, well, most of the bloopers will be members only, and there's liable to be a lot of bloopers with the building of the building. And I will publish the footage and all the important bits of what I did. But for 99 cents, you'll get access to some of the unedited stuff, and you'll probably see a lot of it sooner because I'll probably upload the unedited stuff and then refine that down before I publish it on the regular channel. So inside look, you know, that kind of stuff. And then apparently it's 19.99 for the cord cutting one. I can never remember the ones above that. But either way, I got other levels. The next one you get one cord cutting and 3 strict breakings. And then there's the one above that for spell work. And then the biggest one, you get one 45-minute call every month to discuss spell work. Or you could just come visit me for like $130 and the price of getting here, you know, etc. But I mean, I've had people, I've had friends come visit me off of Facebook up here before, and it was fun. We had a good time. So I'm actually very excited about the Airbnb thing. I'm just a little shy about it. Like, you know, feels weird, honestly. Like, hey, do you want to pay $130 to come visit me? But I mean, it's as much as it would be for an Airbnb anywhere. And the place is cool. And I figure I might as well increase my odds of fun and interesting people coming. So, yeah, I'm not really trying to plug that at you guys so much as letting you know that it's a possibility. And if you're in the States, obviously, I have to get a passport first. Anyways, yeah. So, let's see. What else do we got going on? Oh, I still got some more. I still got some more color here. Let's go ahead and do the last burst of coloring. Oh, sorry. Way too high. There we are. Yes, you can see me and the thing. Okay. I haven't done much on the sleeves, I don't think. So then I'll have to let this dry for a while after the live. I did have some soda ash. They say it's better with this kind of thing if you soak it in soda ash beforehand, but I didn't. And I haven't for stuff in the past, so I have every reason to believe this should still work fairly well. And yeah, there we go. That's the finished product for now. One with a lot of greens in the back. It's kind of cool. think it'll be pretty fun. I should look pretty cool. Should look pretty good when we're done here. Like I said, next time we'll put some more colors after we finish the never-ending story, and I'll try not to do just the cement. We'll do a we'll maybe use a different technique next time, like a splotchy, like something to make splotches next time, maybe, or maybe even a like a stamp, like if I could find like a 8-pointed star stamp or something, that could be cool. But we'll be doing the next book first, which I hopefully will be the never-ending story. I don't see much reason to think that that's like I said, I just wanted to check it out first. I did download it myself, so I should know by next Wednesday if it's not okay to download, I suppose. But it seems to be a safe website. I usually trust Felix on these things, and they seem to think it's reasonably safe. Anyways, we got 19 minutes left till I hit the 3 hour mark. I feel like since I didn't make it last time, I want to make sure we hit the at least the 3 hour mark tonight. Questions, comments, concerns? I guess I'll just kind of open up the floor at this point. If anyone has anything that they want to talk about. I am remembering one thing I wanted to bring up in last live, and I think I never got around to it when we were talking about dreams. And that's the save button. This is one of my favorite new techniques. And it's a great thing for dream recall. Right? I mean, it's made a couple little oddities here and there, but it's just that. Like if you're in a dream, and you have to be at least a little bit lucid to do this, obviously. But if you're having a lucid dream and you want to remember what has happened, because even in lucid dreams, it's often hard to retain those. You simply what I have done that has been working for me really well is literally visualize a save button. If you play a lot of video games, you're used to pushing pause before the save button, or maybe you need a save point. However, your thing is, to me, it's just a big red button. I just visualize a big red button as a save on it and push it. And the idea is that then that literally saves the memory of what has been going on in the dream. And it's been working for me quite well. Now, it is hard to remember at first. So, what I have done in the past to make that work better, and like I did a video on this and then a follow-up video, is let me try and get this off of here. I don't want this piece of string on here anyway. It annoys me. I don't need for it to be on there. Especially at this point, this damn thing broke on me anyways. Okay, so maybe actually this is a little long for the purposes, but people do that bit, tying a string around your fingers so that you don't forget. And this is how I started remembering the save button. Before I went to bed, tie a string around my finger to remind me to use the save button. So then you have that kinesthetic memory, that physical, something that is actually touching you, right? An actual physical contact to remind you of something. That's why tying a string around your finger works, because you look at it and say, oh, why is there a string on my finger? But the same thing, if you're asleep, you're going to feel that. And your mind is going to remember why it is there. And that will greatly increase the odds of you actually remembering to use the save button, and even increase your odds of getting lucid enough to use the save button, I would imagine. I mean, for me, honestly, like when I talk about getting a fully lucid dream, I've been lucid dreaming so long that I can't guarantee what techniques I've read about that work and don't work, but this should direct you into having a lucid dream from the kinesthetic knowledge that you need to use the save button. 'Cause you got to get lucid to use it, you know? And if you're used to pushing pause and seeing a whole save screen, bring up a whole, however it is that your mind does it. This probably can work even better for people that are hardcore gamers. Me, I barely ever play video games. And that's probably why for me it's just a big red button. But what was interesting about this idea was when I first started using it, it took a while for my dream itself to accept that it was just a save button. Now, if I remember, which honestly lately I've been forgetting enough that I'm halfway tempted to start putting a string on my finger to remind myself to use the damn save button. Um, but it has been very effective for me many times. I think I just need to. I haven't used it for a while. And I'm thinking maybe it's time to put a string on my finger again. But anyways, um, the first few times that I pushed the save button, it affected the dream. Like the very first one, I we were going like Ocean's 11 into this casino. Yeah, it was a casino. And we had the whole team. We had a whole team that had been assembled, and we're going through this casino, and we finally managed to get into the back, and we're doing the safe call, the classic listening to the wall while you move the safe, listening to the side of the safe while you turn the dial, trying to crack the safe, and in that moment, I felt the string on my finger, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the save button." So I manifested the save button, and when I pushed the save button, it saved the dream, but it also popped the safe open, which was handy, I suppose. It wasn't a bad thing to happen in the dream. We're already trying to get into the damn safe, push a button and make it open. Cool, you know. But I didn't necessarily want the save button to actually affect the dream. In fact, ideally, the other people in the dream wouldn't even see it. And that's where I have gotten to with it at this point is when I use the save button, it's just something that manifests and I push it and off we go. On the same token, though, I mean, I suppose you could probably literally pause a dream. I've certainly returned to dreams in the past, like fallen asleep, had a dream, and then for some reason been woken up or woke up, whatever the case may be, and then returning back to the same dream in the exact same spot. And that's really just, I mean, I've done that unintentionally plenty of times. But when I'm like concerned with, I'm like, oh, I want to get back to this dream. It's just a matter of remembering the feeling and wanting to go back, going back as you're going back to sleep, saying, okay, I'm going to return right back to that dream. This only works if you wake up, look around, push the snooze bar typically, and go right back. Where you don't reach full consciousness, but it does work. I feel like people that are gaming a lot almost have an advantage in this particular area because there's a lot of the idea of like putting up a save screen, which is just not going to work for me, right? I don't game enough for that to be a thing. But if that was like something that was already ingrained in your mind, I mean, the last time I got big into video games was Command and Conquer. When the Command and Conquer Tiberian Sun came out, I played that game a lot, which I don't know if you know it. It's a strategy game that was big in like what would that have been? Like the late '90s. But that one I got in. And the reason I say that the gamer might have such a big advantage is because that game that I was playing all the time got into my head so much that for a while there, every time I closed my eyes, I'd see this tank, a GDI tank, turn, point its barrel at me. Every time I closed my eyes. I had a lucid dream once when I kept telling myself this is a dream throughout the day, but I was unable to teleport in the dream. Teleportation, even if you're good at lucid dreaming, teleportation is quite the hack. I mean, I can do it, but it takes a lot of trying. This is not something you're going to do the first time you go lucid. Teleportation is something that is shocking to our concept of reality. To walk through something, to simply become somewhere else. There are hacks though, right? The biggest one is doorways. Don't just try to like dematerialize where you are and rematerialize somewhere else unless you've watched a whole lot of Star Trek, you know, and your mind is already kind of in the idea of how teleportation works there. Because then you've got something to lean on. And it might work, but really for teleportation, open a door. Don't just try to teleport, right? Imagine a door appearing before you with what you want on the other side. Because your mind is okay with the idea of going through a door and winding up somewhere else. If you struggle with that and it doesn't quite work, try adding a hallway. Try adding things that your mind is going to accept as you going from one place to another. You know, the Sami, they talk a lot about entering cracks. So, if you're having trouble with the idea of forming the door in the first place, because that can be difficult for some of us, then crawl into a crack. Look down at the ground, see a crack in the floor, see a crack in the wall, see something, and crawl through it, into it, and through it to the place you're trying to get to. The biggest thing is to put some kind of medium, some kind of bridge or vehicle that gets you from one place to the next. Because without that, your brain has trouble accepting that there's something going on. That's why I said don't try to just straight up teleport unless you've watched a whole lot of Star Trek, because then you've got, Scotty beam me up, Scotty beam me down. You've got something that essentially is taking the place of the vehicle to get you from the place you are to the place you want to be. And at least that's how it's worked out well for me. I've heard other people struggle with this and come to the same thing, especially with the S1 sigil. A lot of the people that have made it to the S1 sigil that I've talked to, a lot of them had a hard time with simply visualizing the sigil in their mind and going there from wherever they were in their dream, teleporting. A lot of them are doing was drawing the sigil, and then a door would appear. And they go through the door and go to the S1 sigil. There needs to be something that your psyche accepts as the place in between where you are and where you're going. And I hope that made sense. I feel like I made that as clear as I possibly could. Um, We're getting real close to the 3-minute mark, and I'm also really needing an intermission. You know what? Just so I can say goodbye properly, I'm gonna do an intermission real quick. Be right back, and then it's gonna be the end of the episode. Okay. Hecate is LinkedIn. Yes, this makes sense. Hecate is, like I was saying before, one of those figures that is in many different pantheons in different forms. Grandmother is everywhere. All love to grandmother. Yeah, they're all the same. Well, when I asked grandmother, and I don't have a full shrine to her here actually, which I should probably do. I should probably set something a little more up for her because she's very helpful in many ways for me, especially when it comes to court stuff, which we getting my yeah. I need to set up something for grandmother. I need her help a little more than I've been getting it. But anyways, she's in many traditions with the same thing. But when I asked her if they were all the same being, and she said no, we are all the same. Very clearly. That was definitely the answer. I asked, are you all the same being? She said, no, we are all the same. So take that as what you will. I, I don't know what the no is. There's many facets. 'Cause, I mean, there was more to it than that. Don't let me just leave it there. Let me say the whole thing. There was this vision when she said that of a central core, like crystal or a diamond with all these different facets reflecting, but they're all the same thing. Many different facets, many different faces. Keep trying to drink the wrong one of these ciders. There we go. There's the one that's actually got something in it. Yeah, Hecate, she's very much someone that opens up the crossroads and even in some ideas is the one that helps connect other witches. So, and I never thought about how much of a correlation there's between her and the linking sigil itself, the Ellis. But perhaps she is present in even in that. This makes sense. This is a very common thing. The stuff you've been talking about with your friend David. Not like common, like all kinds, but in practices, this is something that happens. People that we are close to after they pass will sometimes connect with us and work with us, and that was a big part of the point of ancestor worship. When you have these, like, all these different versions of, I hate to use the word shamans, but I don't know what other word to use. Um, that's why part of why the ancestor worship is so key, is because these are people that have passed on that can then intercede on your behalf, right? That was a big part of it. It doesn't need to be someone that's connected to your blood. I remember I was watching this, I don't know what to call it, but a reality show about these people that were interacting with an uncontacted tribe in the, Papua New Guinea. That's where it's Papua New Guinea. One of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen. The whole tribe had been at some point, like, they weren't completely uncontacted. Some of the other tribes in the area were, but the tribe they were staying with had actually been converted to Christianity. And there's this poor guy, and he used to be the shaman of the tribe, and they were asking him about it, and they wanted to see the old stuff, and he took them to where their ancestor stuff was, and he couldn't even look at it. He was afraid to look at it. He brought them there, but he kept his back turned the whole time. And it was because someone had convinced him that Jesus Christ could kick his ancestors' ass, and he had to do what he was told, as far as I could see. One of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen is that poor fucking guy. That is awesome, Black Unit Griffin. And that is the definition of necromancy, by the way, which, as I said, is not a bad thing. That's actually very beautiful. It shows what a friendship the two of you had. My nanny, or my grandma, whatever you want to call her. That's what I called my grandma on my dad's side. You know, it was her dad that was my great grandfather that said I was going to be a manager. But anyways, our relationship got so much better after she passed. She was a mean old woman. And don't get me wrong, I love that mean old woman. I did my whole life. And that's how I went from, she's one of them people, though, that she had favorites. It was very clear where you ranked in the system. And just from being myself and being the same person from the age of being born to, oh man, when did Nanny pass? I was like 38, somewhere around there. Anyways, I went from her least favorite to her favorite grandchild by the time she passed. You know, and either way, once she dies, when she died, she has died. Not when she dies. When she died, um, I made a bodvi of her with her ashes and a gourd that I had been using to help keep her alive for a while. Like, it was actually the gourd that was filtering out all the excess toxins and negative energy from her kidneys as they were failing from potassium overdose. Did what I could. Anyways, um, after she passed, she was constantly around for a long time there. That's where I'm like, I've always loved owls. I've always thought owls were cool. But Nanny, she was obsessed with them. Had them all over her house. All of her family would come over and just like that damn movie Reservation, like that show Reservation Dogs. That guy's got an owl. People have owls, and everybody's looking down. That's what all of her brothers and sisters would do at her house. Like, they wouldn't look. They're all trying to avoid all the damn owls she has everywhere. And I think that yeah, it probably is wise that you don't, you know Things like that can be surprisingly fragile if they're brought before too many people. For the same reason, I was wondering what things are like on Sentinel Island as far as the veil. But yeah, when she passed, she was around a lot, especially I had there's certain things I'm concerned about talking about on the live about ingesting chemicals. But the one that you take and then you immediately rock it off because it's a brain chemical, you know. Every time I would do that and you get injected into that super freaking astral projection, one of the first things I would see was the owl lady. And I knew from the beginning that was my nanny, you know. But also the owls. I've always liked owls. Never been afraid of them. You know, they're the messenger of forbidden knowledge. So I've never felt like that's something I'm supposed to be afraid of being a Manitou. I'm part of the mystery too. Hey, hungry ghost. Unfortunately, you caught us just at the end here. We're going to be going pretty soon. But yeah, after she passed, I essentially inherited that owl spirit from her, and I started seeing owls everywhere, and there's a intense connection there. That literally, it was like she was the owl lady, and now I'm the owl guy. You know? Oh, thought you were watching a recording, eh? Cool. Well, I'm glad you figured out you actually had caught us in time. I feel like there was another update there. Oh, I mean, this is an odd place to bring it up first. I should be posting about the Sorcerers Guild first, but I'm going to be changing the market days in the Sorcerers Guild from Sunday only to Friday through Sunday, and I'm going to be going live on Facebook to do readings and stuff on Fridays. Because, like I was saying, you know, I can't get a regular job right now, and I'll feel a lot better about going live somewhere saying, "Hey, and plugging my services when I'm openly saying on the live that's on Facebook on a market day. I'm openly saying on the title that that's what I'm doing. So, coming up pretty soon here, I'll be going live on Fridays on on Facebook as well. I haven't fully decided the time because I got some other stuff that's going on Fridays too. I got to do what I can to legally get, I can't legally go get a job right now until my open work visa comes through. So, yeah, I should go on some more podcasts. This is a good point. Or not Facebook. YouTube got mad at me with that religion versus magic short. Yeah, I've thought about that. Um there's some weirdness with the paperwork, and there's things that I don't want to that are technically older than the open work visa that I don't want to get fully processed until, Well, that's the thing. See, they said 5 weeks, but they also said 5 weeks about the extension that I filed for like a year and a half ago. And that's the thing that I don't want them to suddenly just process because I'm not for another extension until they've processed that one. It's a whole thing. But I've very much been considering trying to go to Saint Expedite because as far as getting stuff through, like that is one saint that I've heard a lot of good stuff about. I haven't actually experienced myself, but people that I've actually like seen it work. So I've been considering going with Saint Expedite to expedite my open work visa, but I'm afraid he'll accidentally expedite that extension, and then I'll have to file for another one, and it's just it's a cluster. Yeah, I saw that. I gave you a charge for your sigil on CMU. I think maybe there was two separate posts that were about it. So I'm gonna go back and charge the other one. Also, now that I know who you are on Facebook, I mean, it's not that I show favoritism to people that I've talked to as much, but now that I know who you are, there are a few questions you've posted in CMU that I haven't responded to. I'll go back and take a better look at those. I believe we're friends already on Facebook. I think I may have just or I just sent you a friend request. Either way, good. I'm not sure. I may have either. Actually, I think once I figured out that person was you, I sent a friend request. Is I think what happened. Yeah, you should check. And if we're not, feel free to send a friend request. Okay. Well, it's midnight here on Gabriola. This I haven't quite finished my cider. I was worried I was going to have trouble filling this 3 hours today. Honestly, just because of I don't know. I knew it wasn't going to take me 3 hours to paint a robe, but it's good to know that we can just get on here and chit chat and still easily cover 3 hours. Indeed, indeed. We'll stay. I'm gonna go ahead and stay on until I finish the cider here. I've certainly enjoyed myself tonight. Yeah, you know, I should. There's some people I know that do podcasts I could hit up, especially now that I've got the better mic. Been a while since I've done any of those. I was on the very last episode of the Jenny McCarthy show, and what sucked about that is she didn't. She published it on her thing, which was on one of them pay stream sites, but then she would like do partial reposts on her YouTube channel. And because that was the very last one, she never bothered. So I've never seen the episode. I was on there and I did like, yeah, they've got to be somewhere. I'd really like to see the episode. I've never seen it. I was on it, you know, and I really put the time in. Like my buddy, it was because of the A&E. It was because of when I was on that episode of Hoarders, right? Um, they referred to me as the Wizard of Ogden, which isn't actually me. That's my buddy Travis Rasmussen. So Jenny McCarthy actually got a hold of him first. And he's like, well, that's not really me, which he wouldn't have been able to bluff his way through anyways. He's a big tall guy with a giant orange beard and long, long orange hair, and I'm short, skinny guy with a blue goatee. I didn't have a blue goatee at the time. Actually, on the Hoarders episode, I've got a brown beard, brown and black. Well, if I was to grow the whole thing out, I've got all the colors. Like I've got browns and blondes and coppers and reds. Anyways, that is not that's neither here nor there. Their episode, if you was to go look up the Jenny McCarthy podcast on YouTube, you would see some of it. But then the next episode, he's like, because she interviewed him anyway, since she got a hold of him. He's like, okay, well, you sound interesting. Let's talk to you. But let me know who the guy on the episode was so I can get a hold of him. So she gets a hold of me. And I mean, I really put it out there. I got the camera out. I got the spec. Somehow I managed. I still don't know how, but my friend managed to get my best camera to work as a webcam. I still don't get how she did that. And I actually did a literal milk bath just before the episode, which, if you don't know, is an incredible thing for your skin. You get some whole milk and put it in the water when you're bathing, and you're gonna want to shower again later, just to be clear. But you do the milk bath, and when you come out, your skin is just shining. It is like one of the best things you can do to make your skin pretty. And then I did my eyeliner perfect, and I had just to the nines. Like I really put it out there. We had a good episode, and then and then she did the episode, and it went to the streaming site, from what I understand, but then it was never put on YouTube. Because I'm not on whatever the hell streaming site that was, I've never even seen the episode. The Hoarders episode I've seen, obviously. If you go to my playlist, YouTube mentions, you'll actually find a link to their thing on YouTube, which has part of the episode from me being on Hoarders. I've also been on the Brickyard podcast, which I could probably go on again. That'd be fun. Maybe I'll hit it. Maybe I'll hit him up. I haven't seen him post anything for a while. Chaos Magic News is still a thing. They might be fun to go on there, but they're like they have less. I don't know. It'd be fun to go on there one way or the other, right? They do have less subscribers than I do, so I don't know if it would like really boost my thing, but that's not the only thing that matters. It'd be fun to go on there again. Maybe I'll hit him up. There's a few others. I'm not going to continue brainstorming that on here. But this is something to think about. Yeah, that's part of the reason I'm going to film all this stuff with the building my temple is people enjoy that stuff, a little bit out of my niche. I mean, I'm definitely going to talk about all the sorcery stuff and make sure that everybody, all my subscribers and y'all are it's it's something you'll enjoy. But also, I feel like if I'm doing a video on building a tower, it might expand my subscriber base some because people like watching people build stuff, right? Anyways, if any of y'all want to come visit me, we are doing an Airbnb. Honestly, I'm a little nervous about that. I'm gonna share it on my YouTube as well. I mean, my Facebook as well. Maybe even share it in Sorcerers Guild. But I'm this personable in person most of the time. And yeah. I think that's going to be it for this episode. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. Oh, Felix is awesome. Yeah, everyone that sticks into the chat, that's why I decided this would, like, honestly, like I said, I was a little nervous about it, but I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Everyone that sticks to the chat, nobody, like, we get the saga of Eric here once in a while, but I don't think like I don't think he's gonna come Airbnb to come argue with me about Christianity. And if he does, all right, we can spend a couple days discussing these things. I mean, he might give me a bad review afterwards, but whatever. You know? But yeah, I don't think anybody that's trying to troll me is going to go so far as to take an Airbnb. I think if any of you all do show up, it'll either be because you have the kind of money that you can afford to do something like that, or you get something to do in the area anyways, and you might as well come hang out with me while you're here. Yeah. Oh, hey, March of Time. Oh man, you really caught us at the end here. I'm gonna go like pretty quick here. But yeah. We were just talking about how I got an Airbnb. We're doing an Airbnb here at the house. This is actually like I've never done any YouTube of the side of the house, but we got like 7 bedrooms. We're renting 2 of them out for Airbnb, which I figured since we were doing that anyways, I might as well tell people on the live. You know, because that would be fun if somebody from here happened to want to come here, or Gabriel itself is a heck of a spot. And if somebody from here, I'd feel comfortable showing y'all around. Like I'm not like just random people from the Airbnb. I'm mostly gonna at least like leave them to their own devices because they didn't come here to see me. No, but like if it's some of y'all, I'd be willing to show you around the island and stuff. Anyways, yeah, um, we're almost at 3.5 hours already, and here I was worried that I was gonna have trouble filling the 3 hours. One last look at the robe here. It's dry enough. I think I can get away with picking it up a little. I mean, I've already dyed myself so damn much. Who cares? I might as well just let's see how it looks. This is probably gonna make me take a shower when I come inside, I bet. Oh, that red slash across the front is gonna need some more. It's gonna need some more dye across it. I don't know what I think about that. Let's see how it looks after I've washed it. Here's the back, which I'll have to wait till I can watch this in review to see the back. May have noticed there's some difference in my altar back here. I actually wove this from a maple tree. This here. I wove this from a maple tree that we had to take down. If you go to Romestead's channel, you can see me cutting it down with a machete. Okay, we'll put this back up and let it dry overnight. Hopefully I didn't dye my skin too much just now. As long as I don't get on my feet, everything's fine. Okay. So I think that is going to be it for this episode. Get down here where we can. But yeah, I forget to plug Romestead's channel very often. Like I said, you can watch me cut that down and say what I'm doing with it there. Um, we tried to film me weaving it, but it didn't work out too well. But yeah, so that's gonna be it. It's been a fun live. I've had a great time hanging out with y'all. But until next time, bright blessings and an interesting fate. Oh no, Romstead is one of the people. Oh, in the middle of my thing there. But Romstead actually lives here at the at the Romestead. That's the name of the house that I live at. This is the Romestead. Yeah, like that is quite a big house. So they've most of their stuff is the giant Felix's giant aquarium in the living room. Well, I don't know if it's really giant, but it's big. I forget how many gallons. Either way, I do think it's time for me to go. So, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been 100 gallons. Okay, this has been Sorcerer Tal.